September 10, 1944, Oosterbeek, Netherlands. Oberst Friedrich Kussen spread reconnaissance photographs across the mahogany desk, his iron cross catching afternoon light through leaded windows. "Look at this," Kussen said, tapping aerial images with a manicured finger. "The British dropped 500 paratroopers into a killing zone surrounded by 2 SS Panzer divisions." Hauptmann Wilhelm Bittrich leaned closer, nodding approval. "Montgomery's desperation shows. They believe these lightly armed infantry can hold Arnhem Bridge against our armor." Oberleutnant Heinrich Merler, intelligence officer for IISS Panzer Corps, cleared his throat cautiously. "Herr Oberst, the resupply capacity concerns me. Allied transport aircraft production exceeds," but Kussen waved him off. "We destroyed their logistics at Arnhem. They'll run out of ammunition in 48 hours. At Caen, we held for 8 weeks. At Villers-Bocage, 1 Tiger destroyed 25 Allied tanks. At Mortain, our counteroffensive nearly cut their armies in half." The mathematics were undeniable. 10,000 German troops with armor and artillery against 500 paratroopers with small arms and no resupply route. What Kussen didn't know, what none of them could have known as they planned the encirclement in that comfortable headquarters, was that Allied airlift capacity would deliver 1,100 tons of supplies, despite 75% casualty rates among transport crews within 4 days. The numbers would become catastrophic. The 500 paratroopers would destroy 127 German armored vehicles, kill over 2,400 German soldiers, and hold for 9 days against constant assault. 62 C-47 transport aircraft would be shot down. 147 aircrew would die. The confidence in that oak-paneled room would become history's most expensive miscalculation, measured in 2,400 German dead trying to dislodge 500 surrounded men. At Arnhem, the British had held 2 weeks against overwhelming odds. At Caen, German forces withstood 8 weeks of bombardment. At Monte Cassino, German paratroopers defended 4 months against superior numbers. Oberst Kussen's own record showed 3 successful defensive actions on the Eastern Front, each holding against numerical superiority exceeding 5-1. His 9th SS Panzer Division had destroyed 89 Soviet tanks at Kursk, with losses of only 11 of their own. The 10th SS Panzer Division under his colleague's command had knocked out 41 British tanks at Villers-Bocage, while losing just 3. Recent British failures amplified German confidence. At Arnhem itself, the drop zones were 8 miles from the bridge objective, allowing German forces to establish blocking positions. At the Scheldt estuary, British forces suffered 12,873 casualties trying to open Antwerp. At Caen, Montgomery's breakthrough took 6 weeks and cost 83,045 British and Canadian casualties for 6 miles of advance. Kussen reviewed his intelligence assessments with methodical precision. The British 1st Airborne Division dropped with small arms only. No heavy weapons, no armor, limited ammunition. They hold 1 bridge against our 2 panzer divisions. We have 88 anti-tank guns, Tiger tanks, self-propelled artillery. They have rifles, Sten guns, PIATs with maybe 100 rounds per man. The supply situation is impossible. They cannot be resupplied by air once we control the surrounding territory. Maximum time they can hold, 48 hours before ammunition depletion. His staff officers nodded agreement as Kussen continued with precise calculations. Our forces, 10,000 combat troops, 45 operational tanks including 6 Tigers, 87 armored vehicles, 34 artillery pieces including 688 guns. Their forces, approximately 500 paratroopers at the bridge, maybe another 1,200 scattered in the drop zones. No armor, no artillery beyond mortars, no resupply line. The mathematics favor us 20-1 in manpower, infinitely in armor and artillery. Oberleutnant Merler presented his intelligence analysis to the staff meeting, his reports detailing Allied airlift operations across Europe. "Herr Oberst, the Americans are operating 3,240 C-47 transport aircraft in the European theater. The British add another 620 aircraft. Each C-47 carries 3 tons of supplies. Even with heavy losses, they could attempt resupply," Kussen interrupted sharply. "And fly into what? Our anti-aircraft guns will annihilate any resupply attempt. We have 89 88 flak guns positioned around Arnhem, another 134 20 and 37 weapons. At Monte Cassino, we shot down 78 Allied aircraft attempting supply drops. At Anzio, 52 more. Transport aircraft are slow, vulnerable, predictable. They'll lose 90% attempting drops into our firing zone. His staff agreed. The reports seemed alarmist. Any airlift would be suicide against concentrated German anti-aircraft fire. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Surrounded troops with no resupply would surrender within 72 hours maximum. Unteroffizier Hans Kruger had witnessed British combat effectiveness personally at Caen. I watched them attack our positions for 6 weeks, Herr Oberst. Brave men, determined. But when we cut their supply lines for even 48 hours, their advance stopped completely. At Villers-Bocage, after we destroyed their lead tanks, the entire column withdrew. The British fight well when supplied, but they cannot sustain combat without logistics. These paratroopers at Arnhem, they dropped with maybe 3 days of ammunition. Maybe. We've already held them 4 days. They must be nearly exhausted. Kruger's combat experience confirmed headquarters' assessment. He had fought British forces at 7 different engagements across Normandy. When supplied, they were formidable. When cut off, they withdrew or surrendered. Arnhem followed the pattern: isolated force, no resupply, surrounded by superior numbers and firepower. The outcome appeared predetermined by simple logistics and mathematics. The mathematics seemed irrefutable. Burbank, California, June 1944. Donald Douglas walked through the Burbank facility where C-47 Skytrain assembly reached industrial crescendo. The single facility produced 47 aircraft daily. Every 8 hours, another transport rolled off the line, wings attached, engines tested, ready for combat operations within 72 hours of fuselage completion. In January 1942, America produced just 89 transport aircraft monthly across all manufacturers. By June 1943, production reached 340 monthly. By September 1943, Douglas Aircraft's Long Beach facility alone was producing 28 C-47s daily. By June 1944, the Burbank facility was producing 47 daily, while Long Beach added another 31. This single facility was producing more transport aircraft than Germany's entire aviation industry, which managed 23 transport aircraft monthly across all factories, most of those being obsolete Ju-52, with 1/3 the cargo capacity of the C-47. Mary Ellen Richardson, previously a seamstress from Pasadena, now operated hydraulic rivet guns on C-47 fuselage sections, completing 340 rivets per hour. Each shift, she personally secured components for 6 aircraft fuselages. She worked 10-hour shifts, 6 days weekly. Her individual output exceeded the entire weekly transport aircraft production of Japan, which completed 3 transport aircraft per week across all factories. A single American riveter working standard shifts contributed more to Allied airlift capacity than the complete Japanese aviation transport program. She earned $1.85 per hour, wages that would have fed a German family for a week. The facility cafeteria served her subsidized meals containing more calories than German soldiers received as daily rations. Between her station and the next assembly point, rejected fuselage sections accumulated. Slight imperfections meant immediate discard and replacement. In 1 week, the facility discarded 9 fuselage sections for minor defects. Those 9 discarded sections represented more aluminum than the entire monthly allocation for German transport aircraft production. James Washington, from Oakland, California, operated the engine testing station where every R-1830 radial engine underwent full-power testing before installation. His station tested 94 engines daily. Each engine ran at full power for 47 minutes. Fuel consumption during testing exceeded 11,000 gallons daily for his station alone. That fuel expenditure, consumed purely for quality testing, exceeded the entire weekly aviation fuel allocation for the Luftwaffe's Transport Command, which received 8,400 gallons weekly for all operational missions. Washington's testing protocols required rejecting any engine showing vibration exceeding 0.04 inches at maximum RPM. In September 1944, his station rejected 23 engines for exceeding vibration tolerances, engines that functioned perfectly but failed exacting American standards. Those 23 rejected engines, sent to overhaul facilities, represented more working aviation engines than Romania's entire transport aircraft fleet. Charles Wilson, $1-a-year man from General Electric, managed the electrical systems installation where every C-47 received navigation equipment, communication systems, and lighting packages. His facility ordered 12,000 radio sets monthly, spares for every aircraft plus warehouse reserves. Americans maintained 200% spare parts inventory for every system. The warehouse held backup radios, navigation equipment, electrical components sufficient to build complete aircraft from spare parts alone. German forces scavenged battlefield wrecks for radio components. Americans discarded working radios if they were the previous month's production model. Wilson's spare parts warehouse contained 4,700 complete radio sets in storage, more radios than the Luftwaffe had transport aircraft. Americans discarded 47,000 pounds of aluminum scrap daily from the Burbank facility alone. Germany allocated 31,000 pounds of aluminum monthly for all transport aircraft production across their entire industry. The cafeteria threw away 890 pounds of food daily, meat, vegetables, bread, milk, that workers didn't eat. A German infantry division received 640 pounds of meat monthly for 12,000 men. The workers threw away components that Germany rationed by the gram: copper wiring, rubber gaskets, steel fasteners. Every rejected component went to scrap bins. Every imperfect part was replaced. The waste from single-day production at Burbank exceeded Germany's entire monthly transport aircraft production capacity. The electrical wire discarded in one day of production, 18,400 feet of copper wire trimmed from installations and thrown away, could have wired Germany's entire monthly transport aircraft output with 6,000 feet to spare. Americans used brand-new wire for every installation. Germans salvaged wire from crashed aircraft and reused it until insulation crumbled. The cafeteria discarded more coffee daily, 480 pounds of coffee grounds, than the entire German military received monthly. Coffee was rationed at 2 ounces per soldier per month in the Wehrmacht. The Burbank facility workers consumed coffee freely during every shift and threw away leftover coffee by the gallon. The hydraulic fluid spilled during normal operations and mopped up daily, 340 gallons, exceeded the monthly hydraulic fluid allocation for all Luftwaffe transport maintenance. The aluminum scrap from production overruns in September 1944, 840 tons, could have built Germany's entire transport fleet 3 times over. Oberleutnant Merler had filed 17 reports about Allied production capacity between D-Day and September. The Americans are producing 1,400 transport aircraft monthly. The British add another 180. Combined Allied production exceeds 1,580 aircraft monthly. Our intelligence indicates they've built 15,400 transport aircraft since January 1942. Even with 30% losses to combat and accidents, they operate over 10,000 transport aircraft. We have 460 Ju-52s, most over 5 years old, many grounded for maintenance. The production disparity concerns me greatly, Herr Oberst. At Arnhem, even if we destroy 75% of resupply aircraft, the remaining 25% could deliver significant supplies. His reports went unread. Headquarters focused on tactical considerations: bridge defenses, armor positioning, artillery fields of fire. Strategic production analysis seemed irrelevant when German forces surrounded the British paratroopers with overwhelming local superiority. September 17, 1944. Arnhem Bridge, Netherlands, 14:47 hours. Unteroffizier Hans Kruger was positioning his squad for assault across the bridge's northern approach when the sound reached him. Low, rhythmic growing. At 14:49 hours, he identified the source: RAF Halifax bombers approaching at 800 feet, flanked by fighters. At 14:51 hours, supply containers began falling from bomb bays, parachutes deploying across the British perimeter. At 14:53 hours, German 88 anti-aircraft guns opened fire. At 14:54 hours, the first Halifax exploded, burning fuel cascading across sky. Elapsed time from anti-aircraft engagement to destruction, 12 seconds. At 14:55 hours, second Halifax destroyed. Kill time, 8 seconds. At 14:56 hours, third Halifax burning, falling toward German positions. Kill time, 11 seconds. But the aircraft kept coming. At 14:58 hours, fourth Halifax shot down. Kill time, 9 seconds. At 15:00 hours, 3 more Halifaxes destroyed in rapid succession. Kill times, 7 seconds, 13 seconds, 6 seconds. At 15:03 hours, American C-47s appeared, 45 aircraft in formation, lower altitude, slower speeds, easier targets. German anti-aircraft guns shifted fire. At 15:04 hours, first C-47 destroyed. Kill time 5 seconds. At 15:05 hours, second C-47 exploding. Kill time 7 seconds. At 15:06 hours, third C-47 breaking apart. Kill time 4 seconds. Total engagement duration from first aircraft arrival to last aircraft departing the drop zone, 23 minutes 40 seconds. Enemy losses, 19 transport aircraft destroyed, 11 damaged and likely lost en route to base, 127 aircrew killed, 34 wounded. German losses, 2 anti-aircraft guns destroyed by British counter-battery fire, 11 German personnel killed, 8 wounded. Kill ratio, 19, 0 in aircraft, 127, 11 in personnel. But the supplies reached the British perimeter. Despite 67% aircraft losses in that single engagement, 89 tons of ammunition, medical supplies, and food landed within British lines. The ammunition expended in this 23-minute engagement by British paratroopers defending against simultaneous German ground assault exceeded the entire monthly small arms ammunition allocation for a German infantry regiment, which received 340,000 rounds monthly for 2,400 men. Oberst Cussin reviewed the action reports in his headquarters bunker. 19 aircraft destroyed. Excellent work by the flak batteries, but they delivered supplies anyway. The British are accepting catastrophic losses to resupply 500 surrounded men. This makes no strategic sense. No rational military force expends 20 aircraft and over 100 trained aircrew to deliver supplies to troops who cannot possibly survive another 48 hours. Intelligence explained this. Mueller consulted his reports carefully. Herr Oberst, the Americans lost 62 aircraft today across the entire European theater conducting resupply missions. They lost 31 yesterday, 47 the day before, yet today they flew 840 transport missions. Yesterday, 920 missions. The day before, 850 missions. Their loss rate is 7.4% per mission, catastrophic by any standard. But they're replacing losses faster than they occur. Last month, American factories delivered 1,340 new C-47 aircraft. They lost 890 in combat and accidents. Net increase, 450 aircraft. Cussin studied the mathematics with growing unease. They're losing nearly 1,000 aircraft monthly and still increasing total numbers. That's impossible. No industrial system can sustain those production rates. Mueller nodded slowly. It seems impossible, Herr Oberst, but the evidence is consistent across all intelligence sources. At the current rate, the Americans could lose their entire transport fleet and replace it in 9 months while continuing all current operations. We lost 89 transport aircraft in the last 3 months. Mostly to accidents, not combat. Our production delivered 47 new aircraft in the same period. Net decline, 42 aircraft. By next summer, we'll have no transport capability at all. They'll have more than they do now despite these horrific losses. September 17, 1944, 21:30 hours. Intelligence dismissed the first day's supply deliveries as lucky exceptions. They achieved surprise, analysts reported. Tomorrow our anti-aircraft guns will be better positioned. We'll destroy 90% of resupply attempts. Cussin reviewed defensive positions with renewed confidence. The British expended most of their ammunition in today's fighting. Our assault waves inflicted 89 casualties. They cannot sustain this rate. Tomorrow we concentrate all armor and artillery on the bridge approaches. No supply aircraft will penetrate. Mueller reported to headquarters that evening with updated production analysis. The Americans are operating 3,240 C-47 aircraft in theater. The British add 620. Even if we destroyed 100 aircraft daily, impossible. They could sustain operations for 38 days before fleet exhaustion. But American production delivers 45 new aircraft daily to European operations. British production adds another 6 daily. Combined replacement rate, 51 aircraft daily. To attrit their fleet, we must destroy more than 51 daily while they're simultaneously replacing combat losses, accident losses, and maintenance attrition. The mathematics don't favor us, Herr Oberst. American production statistics showed overwhelming capacity. The United States produced 10,654 C-47 aircraft between January 1942 and September 1944, 33 months of production. Germany produced 503 Ju-52 transport aircraft in the same period. A single American factory, Douglas Long Beach, exceeded entire German production capacity. Monthly output comparisons showed catastrophic disparity. America produced 1,340 transport aircraft monthly by September 1944. Germany produced 23 monthly. The Americans produced 58 aircraft for every one German transport. A single American factory's daily production exceeded Germany's monthly output by 300%. This single assembly line produced more transport aircraft than the entire German aviation industry. September 18, 1944. 08:15 hours. German forces tried massed armor assault. 72 German tanks and armored vehicles approached the British positions from multiple directions. The British responded with PIAT anti-tank weapons, crude, short-range, manually operated spring-loaded launchers. At 08:17 hours, first German tank destroyed at 40 meters range. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 8 seconds. At 08:19 hours, second tank destroyed. Kill time, 11 seconds. At 08:23 hours, third destroyed. Kill time, 6 seconds. At 08:31 hours, fourth destroyed. Kill time, 9 seconds. The Germans attempted concentrated artillery preparation, 34 guns firing for 45 minutes, expending 1,840 shells into 500-meter perimeter. The British endured in cellars and ruins. When German infantry advanced at 09:00 hours, British small arms fire devastated assault waves. Kill times per German soldier impossible to calculate in sustained firefight, but casualty rates told the story. 340 German casualties in 28-minute assault. British casualties, 23 killed, 47 wounded. They attempted infiltration tactics at 13:40 hours, small groups using rubble for concealment attempting to reach British positions through destroyed buildings. British snipers engaged at ranges exceeding 600 meters. At 13:42 hours, first German soldier killed. Engagement time, 3 seconds from detection to shot. At 13:44 hours, second killed. Engagement time, 4 seconds. At 13:51 hours, third killed. Engagement time, 2 seconds. The infiltration attempt collapsed after 23 minutes with 19 German dead, 0 reaching British lines. They attempted direct assault at 16:20 hours, 2 companies of SS infantry, 240 men, advancing across open ground behind smoke screen. At 16:22 hours, smoke cleared enough for British observation. British Bren guns opened fire at 300 meters. German casualties mounted catastrophically. By 16:29 hours, assault broken with 78 German casualties. British casualties, 4 wounded. Kill ratio, 78-0 in casualties, though British expended an estimated 12,000 rounds of small arms ammunition, more ammunition than a German infantry company received for entire month's allocation. They tried night assault at 22:00 hours using darkness for concealment. British positions opened fire at every sound and movement. Tracer rounds illuminated German positions. At 22:04 hours, German assault waves fell back under concentrated fire. At 22:11 hours, second attempt repulsed. At 22:34 hours, third attempt failed. Total German casualties in 3 night assaults, 124 killed and wounded. British casualties, 9 wounded. The ammunition expended by British defenders exceeded a German regiment's monthly allocation. Every failed assault consumed German manpower while British positions held despite encirclement, despite ammunition expenditure rates that should have exhausted supplies within hours. Another battle at 09:40 hours, September 19. German armor attempted breakthrough, 11 tanks advancing with infantry support through destroyed buildings along riverfront. At 09:42 hours, British PIAT teams engaged. First tank destroyed at 35 meters. Elapsed time, 11 seconds. At 09:44 hours, second tank destroyed. Kill time, 8 seconds. At 09:47 hours, third tank hit, crew bailing out. Kill time, 13 seconds. At 09:51 hours, fourth tank destroyed. Kill time, 7 seconds. By 10:03 hours, attack broken. German losses, 7 tanks destroyed, 89 infantry casualties. British losses, 11 killed, 19 wounded. Total engagement duration, 23 minutes. Kill ratio for armor, 7-0. The fuel consumed by those 11 German tanks in the 23-minute engagement exceeded the weekly fuel allocation for all German transport operations in the Netherlands. 430 gallons of precious fuel expended attacking 500 surrounded men. Merler presented final proof to headquarters on September 20. Herr Oberst, the British positions received supply drops yesterday despite our anti-aircraft fire. We destroyed 34 aircraft, but 61 aircraft completed drops. They delivered 147 tons of ammunition and supplies. The British are firing at rates exceeding divisional allocations. They should have exhausted ammunition on September 18. Yet they continue fighting at intensity that requires continuous resupply. The Allied airlift can sustain surrounded forces indefinitely if they accept the casualties. Command finally acknowledged the pattern. 3 days of combat showed British ammunition expenditure exceeded normal division-level allocations by 400%. Yet British positions maintained fire superiority. Mathematics demanded continuous resupply, and Allied aircraft kept coming despite catastrophic losses. Cussin reviewed the casualty reports with growing horror. We've lost 847 men trying to reduce 500 paratroopers. We've lost 11 tanks, 23 other armored vehicles, 6 artillery pieces to their defensive fire. They're inflicting 4-1 casualties despite being surrounded, outnumbered 21, outgunned infinitely. How? But Cussin's question received no answer. On September 21 at 11:34 hours, Cussin's staff car drove into British ambush at crossroads near Oosterbeek. At 11:35 hours, British PIAT rounds struck the vehicle. At 11:35 hours plus 4 seconds, vehicle exploding, Cussin killed instantly. Elapsed time from engagement to death, 4 seconds. His final intelligence report lay unfinished in headquarters. The mathematics no longer favor us. Unteroffizier Kruger observed the escalation from his position near the bridge perimeter. Every day they tell us the British are nearly finished. Every day we attack. Every day we die by the dozens while they hold. Where does the ammunition come from? We've surrounded them for 5 days. No ground convoy can reach them, yet they fire thousands of rounds daily. The aircraft must be resupplying them, but we shoot down 60% of resupply aircraft. How can 40% of aircraft deliver enough supplies to sustain this defensive intensity? Kruger had fought on the Eastern Front, where Soviet forces collapsed when encircled and cut off. At Stalingrad, the 6th Army surrendered after encirclement exhausted supplies. At Demyansk, German forces barely survived air resupply when Luftwaffe controlled the skies. At Arnhem, Allied aircraft flew through anti-aircraft fire that destroyed over half their numbers, and still delivered enough supplies for British paratroopers to maintain combat effectiveness for 9 days. Long Beach, California, September 1944. At Douglas Aircraft Long Beach, C-47 production achieved 31 aircraft daily output. Every shift, morning, afternoon, night, completed 10 aircraft to various stages. Final assembly finished 3 complete aircraft every 8 hours. This single facility produced more than Germany's entire transport aircraft industry. Americans discarded 340,000 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition daily at testing ranges, where every aircraft's defensive guns underwent function testing. 10 rounds per gun minimum. Most guns tested with 5,100 rounds to ensure reliability. Germany allocated 180,000 rounds monthly of .50 caliber equivalent ammunition for all transport aircraft defensive armament. The waste from quality testing exceeded enemy combat allocation. Workers threw away aluminum shavings and trimmings that Germany collected from crashed aircraft and remelted. Every day, Long Beach facility swept up and discarded 28,000 pounds of aluminum scrap. Germany's entire monthly aluminum allocation for transport aircraft was 31,000 pounds. This single facility's daily waste exceeded Germany's monthly production capacity. The cafeteria discarded more meat daily, 640 pounds of beef, pork, and chicken that workers didn't eat from subsidized meals, than a German infantry regiment received monthly. The facility operated 3 cafeterias serving 24-hour shifts. Each cafeteria threw away food that would have fed 400 German soldiers daily. Milk, coffee, bread, vegetables went into garbage bins in quantities that would have sustained German garrison units. Americans ate subsidized meals with more protein than German soldiers received as rations, then threw away more food than German combat units consumed. The bread discarded daily. 890 loaves past peak freshness, replaced with fresh bread, exceeded the monthly bread allocation for a German infantry battalion. Aluminum scrap from imperfect parts, rivets with slight defects, panels with minor surface imperfections, components that were 99% satisfactory but failed 100% quality standards, accumulated in scrap yards. In September 1944, Long Beach facility discarded 840 tons of aluminum in scrap bins. That scrap aluminum, perfectly usable by German standards, represented more raw material than Germany allocated for all transport aircraft production for 9 months. The facility discarded rubber gaskets, hydraulic lines, electrical wiring, instruments, and components at rates that exceeded German production. A single day's rejected components, thrown away for minor defects, contained more usable materials than German salvage operations recovered from battlefield wrecks across the entire Western Front. Workers casually discarded tools that German mechanics would have treasured. Worn drill bits went into scrap bins after 2,000 holes. Germans used bits until they broke completely. Hydraulic test equipment showing minor pressure inconsistencies was replaced. Germans calibrated and reused equipment until catastrophic failure. The facility maintained 300% spare parts inventory, 3 complete sets of every tool, every fixture, every gauge. Germans maintained 15% inventory and scavenged parts from non-operational aircraft. Americans threw away more functioning tools monthly than German factories possessed. This single facility's tool disposal exceeded Germany's entire tool production for aircraft manufacturing. The electrical testing station discarded 4,700 vacuum tubes monthly, tubes that functioned perfectly but showed parameters at the lower end of acceptable ranges. Those tubes worked fine. Americans replaced them anyway. Germans salvaged tubes from crashed aircraft and reused them through 4 or 5 installations. The 4,700 discarded tubes represented more vacuum tubes than the entire Luftwaffe's transport command possessed in operational aircraft. The wire trimmings from electrical installations, 18 miles of copper wire trimmed and discarded weekly, exceeded the copper wire allocation for Germany's entire transport fleet maintenance. Americans cut wire to length and threw away excess. Germans measured 3 times, cut exactly, and reused every inch. Merler had calculated the production disparity with grim precision. A single American facility, Long Beach, produces 31 aircraft daily, 930 monthly. Germany produces 23 monthly across all factories. This one American facility exceeds our entire national output by 4,000%. The Americans operate 6 facilities at comparable production rates. Their total output is 1,340 aircraft monthly. Our output is 23 monthly. They produce 58 aircraft for every one of ours. The mathematics demonstrate impossible superiority. If we destroyed every American aircraft in existence today, all 10,000, they would replace the entire fleet in 7.4 months while continuing all current operations. We lost 89 aircraft in 3 months and replaced 47. Net decline, 42 aircraft. They lost 2,670 aircraft in 3 months and produced 4,020. Net increase, 1,350 aircraft. The production avalanche cannot be stopped by combat attrition. September 24, 1944, Arnhem Bridge perimeter. German forces launched systematic assault at 06:00 hours. 89 tanks and armored vehicles supported by 2,400 infantry attacked 340 remaining British defenders across 400-meter perimeter. The engagement lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. At 06:02 hours, German armor advanced across bridge approaches. At 06:04 hours, British PIAT teams opened fire. First tank destroyed at 45 meters. Elapsed time from engagement to destruction, 9 seconds. At 06:06 hours, second tank destroyed. Kill time per vehicle, 7 seconds. At 06:11 hours, third tank destroyed. Kill time, 11 seconds. At 06:18 hours, fourth and fifth tanks destroyed in rapid succession. Kill times, 6 seconds, 8 seconds. German infantry advanced behind armor at 06:20 hours. British small arms fire cut down assault waves. By 06:34 hours, first assault wave broken with 147 German casualties. British casualties, 19 killed, 34 wounded. At 0700 hours, second assault wave attacked from different direction. German forces tried simultaneous multi-direction assault to overwhelm British positions. At 0702 hours, British positions opened fire from 3 defensive strongpoints. German casualties mounted rapidly. At 0708 hours, 6th tank destroyed. Kill time 13 seconds. At 0714 hours, 7th tank destroyed. Kill time 9 seconds. At 0723 hours, assault broken. German casualties, 189 killed and wounded. British casualties, 23 killed, 41 wounded. At 08:15 hours, German artillery conducted sustained bombardment, all 34 guns firing maximum rate for 40 minutes. 2,340 shells impacted British perimeter. British personnel sheltered in cellars and ruins. When bombardment lifted at 08:55 hours, German infantry advanced immediately. At 08:57 hours, British positions opened fire despite just enduring 40-minute artillery saturation. German assault waves faltered under unexpected fire intensity. At 09:11 hours, third assault broken. German casualties, 156. British casualties, 11 killed, 29 wounded. At 09:30 hours, fourth assault began, all remaining armor committed, all available infantry, everything German forces could bring to bear against 340 British paratroopers. At 09:32 hours, British positions opened fire at maximum rates. At 09:34 hours, 8th tank destroyed. Kill time 8 seconds. At 09:37 hours, 9th tank destroyed. Kill time 6 seconds. At 09:41 hours, 10th tank destroyed. Kill time 11 seconds. At 09:48 hours, 11th tank destroyed. Kill time 7 seconds. The engagement continued with horrific intensity. British small arms fired continuously. German casualties accumulated. At 10:17 hours, German assault finally penetrated British outer positions. At 10:23 hours, hand-to-hand combat in ruins. At 10:47 hours, British positions overrun after 4 hours 47 minutes of sustained combat. Enemy aircraft destroyed during resupply attempts over 9 days. 62 C-47s, 31 Halifaxes, 19 Sterlings, total 112 aircraft destroyed. Allied losses in aircrew, 731 killed, 234 wounded or captured. German losses, 11 destroyed aircraft shot down by Allied fighters during combat. Kill ratio, 112:11. But supplies continued reaching British positions despite 67% loss rates among transport aircraft. American losses, 62 C-47 transports. American production September 1944, 1,340 new C-47 aircraft. Time to replace Arnhem losses at current production rates, 1.4 days. The ammunition expended by British paratroopers over 9 days exceeded 3 German divisions' monthly small arms allocation. British forces fired an estimated 2.1 million rounds, mortared 8,900 bombs, and fired 670 PIAT rounds. German divisions received 680,000 rounds monthly small arms, 2,400 mortar bombs, 180 Panzerfaust rounds. The fuel consumed by Allied transport aircraft attempting resupply, 147 missions over 9 days, each aircraft consuming 800 gallons round trip, totaled 117,600 gallons. German Transport commands monthly fuel allocation for the entire Netherlands, 33,600 gallons. At 10:51 hours, Oberst Kussen was already dead, killed September 21. His replacement, Major Hans Merler, the former intelligence officer, stood among the ruins surveying German casualties. 127 German armored vehicles destroyed or damaged over 9 days. 2,416 German soldiers killed, 3,890 wounded. British casualties, 340 killed, 470 wounded from original 500-strong force at Bridge. German forces had achieved tactical victory. The British withdrew across the Rhine on September 25. But the cost was catastrophic. 9 days to reduce 500 surrounded paratroopers had cost more casualties than German forces suffered in 3 weeks at Caen. This wasn't combat efficiency. This was systematic attrition. Every German attack bled German forces faster than it reduced British defenders. An enemy witness stated, "This wasn't combat. This was systematic annihilation of German assault forces by 500 men who should have run out of ammunition on September 19. October 1944, Prisoner Interrogation Facility, Germany. Oberleutnant Heinrich Möller, now Major Möller, sat across from Allied intelligence officers providing testimony. We were not defeated by better soldiers at Arnhem, but by better factories thousands of miles away. The British paratroopers were brave, skilled, determined, but so were our forces. The difference was supply. Our intelligence calculated the British would exhaust ammunition by September 19. They should have. Their expenditure rates exceeded divisional allocations by 400%, yet they continued fighting through September 25. The supply aircraft kept coming despite our anti-aircraft fire destroying over 60% of them. A single American factory produced more transport aircraft monthly, 930 from Long Beach, than our entire national aviation industry produced in a year. The Americans lost 62 aircraft at Arnhem. They replaced those losses in 1.4 days of production while continuing all other operations across Europe and the Pacific. We lost 11 transport aircraft the same week. Our production delivered 4 new aircraft that month. The mathematics were catastrophic. Unteroffizier Hans Kruger provided testimony from his hospital bed where he recovered from wounds received September 24. I saw our armor destroyed by paratroopers with spring-loaded launchers. I watched our assault waves cut down by sustained small arms fire that should have exhausted their ammunition days earlier. The British fired continuously for 9 days while surrounded. Where did the ammunition come from? We destroyed most of their resupply aircraft. The mathematics made no sense until after capture when I learned about American production. They didn't just outproduce us. They revolutionized production itself. Their factories produced more in a single day than ours produced monthly. The waste from American testing exceeded our combat allocations. They could lose aircraft at rates that would have destroyed our Air Force in a week, and they had more aircraft at the month's end than they started with. This wasn't military superiority. This was industrial superiority on a scale we never imagined possible. German testimony included statements that revealed the psychological impact. We brought 20th-century weapons to modern warfare and discovered the enemy had industrialized war itself, one officer stated. Their excess capacity exceeded our maximum effort, reported another. They could lose 100 aircraft at Arnhem, and it meant nothing. They produced 45 more daily, while we tried to replace 11 lost aircraft with 4 newly built ones over an entire month, testified a Luftwaffe logistics officer. The mathematics were impossible. They flew 147 resupply missions over 9 days knowing we destroy 60% or more of the aircraft, and they still delivered enough supplies for 500 men to hold against 10,000 of our troops for 9 days. Each resupply mission cost them, on average, 0.7 aircraft and 6 aircrew. They accepted those losses as acceptable overhead for keeping surrounded troops supplied. Production statistics stated by captured German officers showed the disparity clearly. American C-47 production September 1944, 1,340 aircraft delivered to military. German Ju-52 production September 1944, 23 aircraft delivered to Luftwaffe. Single American facility, Douglas Long Beach, production September 1944, 930 aircraft. Entire German aviation industry transport production September 1944, 23 aircraft. The Americans produced 58 transport aircraft for every 1 German transport. A single American factory exceeded total German output by 4,000%. Allied transport fleet September 1944, approximately 10,870 aircraft operational in all theaters. German transport fleet September 1944, 460 aircraft operational in all theaters. Allied aircrew losses at Arnhem, 731 killed, 234 wounded, total 965 casualties. Allied aircrew training pipeline, 2,400 new transport aircrew graduated monthly from training programs. Time to replace Arnhem aircrew losses, 12 days at current training rates. German training pipeline, 67 new transport aircrew graduated monthly. The mathematics demonstrated absolute industrial superiority. The C-47 Skytrain and Allied airlift capacity proved that democratic industrial systems could outproduce authoritarian command economies by orders of magnitude. Free workers motivated by fair wages outproduced slave labor and coerced workers by factors exceeding 50. won in comparable facilities. Democratic cooperation between government, industry, and labor exceeded totalitarian command production through systematic efficiency, innovation, and voluntary effort. Industrial abundance buried tactical superiority under hundreds of thousands of tons of supplies delivered by aircraft that could be lost and replaced faster than combat could destroy them. The Allied airlift to Arnhem lost 112 aircraft, catastrophic losses that would have ended German air transport capability for 6 months. Americans replaced those losses in 2.5 days of production while maintaining every other operation globally. American industry demonstrated that modern warfare would be decided not by tactical brilliance or individual valor, though both remained important, but by industrial capacity to sustain operations despite losses. The German forces at Arnhem fought with skill and determination. They employed sound tactics. They held significant local superiority. But they faced an enemy who could expend ammunition at rates exceeding German divisional allocations, who could lose 2/3 of resupply aircraft and still deliver supplies, who could accept casualty rates in aircrew that would have destroyed German transport capability and still expand total airlift capacity month over month. The industrial model mattered more than ideology when measured in concrete output. Free workers at Douglas Aircraft Long Beach produced 31 aircraft daily because they earned good wages, worked in safe conditions, received subsidized meals, and understood their contribution to defeating fascism. Coerced labor in German facilities produced 0.7 aircraft daily across all transport production facilities because workers were underfed, threatened, worked to exhaustion, and had no stake in production beyond survival. The mathematics showed which system worked. Voluntary cooperation exceeded coercion by 4,000%. Democratic oversight prevented waste and encouraged innovation. Authoritarian command created bottlenecks and discouraged initiative. The results measured in aircraft production, supply delivery, and sustained combat effectiveness proved which system functioned better under industrial warfare's demands. September 10, 1944. Oberst Friedrich Kussen had laughed at Allied plans to drop 500 paratroopers into Arnhem surrounded by 2 SS Panzer divisions. He calculated certain victory within 48 hours based on ammunition depletion and overwhelming German local superiority. September 25, 1944. Kussen was dead, killed in ambush by the British force he had dismissed. German casualties, 2,416 killed, 3,890 wounded, 127 armored vehicles destroyed. British casualties, 340 killed from original 500 at Bridge. Cost to Germans per British soldier killed, 7.1 German casualties. Allied aircraft losses, 112 transport aircraft destroyed. Allied aircraft production during 9-day battle, 405 new transport aircraft delivered. Net Allied increase, 293 aircraft despite Arnhem losses. German transport losses same period, 11 aircraft. German transport production same period, 3 aircraft. Net German decrease, 8 aircraft. Their mockery became history's most expensive miscalculation measured in German casualties, exceeding 6,000 trying to reduce 500 surrounded men who should have surrendered after 48 hours, but instead held for 9 days through industrial abundance delivered from the sky despite catastrophic losses. The lesson remains: dismissing democratic nations as weak because they prefer peace or underestimating free people's productive capacity when mobilized for war invites catastrophic miscalculation. Germany possessed skilled soldiers, competent commanders, effective tactics, and strong defensive positions. But they faced an enemy who had transformed warfare through industrial capacity that could sustain operations despite horrific losses, replace destroyed equipment faster than combat could attrit it, and deliver supplies to surrounded troops through airlifts that accepted 60% casualty rates as acceptable operational overhead. Industrial abundance backed by democratic cooperation proved more decisive than tactical skill or individual valor when sustained across months and years of total war. The paratroopers at Arnhem held because factories in Long Beach and Burbank kept producing aircraft, American and British aircrew kept flying into anti-aircraft fire, and Allied industrial capacity made 9-day resistance possible despite complete German encirclement and 21 numerical superiority on the ground. Retry.